Welcome to Novel Wizard. Novel Wizard is a graphical user interface representation of my writing workflow, specifically when I'm dealing with cutting out filler words. I want to present this software to you with the preface that I understand that not everything that works for me works for everyone else, but hopefully you can get something out of this software. So we're going to go through a few stories so I can show you some of the bits and pieces of this software and you can see maybe whether or not it's helpful to you. So I have a couple stories on hand. I have A Tale of Two Cities that's made available by Project Gutenberg. And I'm going to go ahead and share this. And I'll link to Project Gutenberg below because it's a really good website to share books. Classic stories, actually. So once you have your story pasted in here, we're going to get comparison stats. And we have a couple things that populate here on the left side. I have the number of sentences and average words, which we can use to get a word count. And type token ratio is just a measure of the unique words in a sentence. So usually the higher the better. It's used in education as a measure of writing ability. And then what we do here is we get word frequency per 10,000 words. Now the way that I've done my math in the software doesn't technically matter if your body of work is 1,000 or 5,000 or even 100,000. You're going to get the same frequency. Obviously, smaller works, they won't be quite as accurate, but they'll be pretty accurate. Especially if you have like 5 or 6,000 words, you get pretty close to that 10,000 word mark. I've separated these various word frequencies into categories, right? So superfluous articles, that's the way that I've named it in my original spreadsheet, so I decided to keep it. These are things that won't necessarily break the bank, but they are definitely things that you might want to consider cutting, right? And obviously, there are some instances of these per thousand words. That obviously is a really hard word to avoid. And sometimes you don't need to. These are all guidelines, especially I've been able to piece these together through the internet. Adverbs. These are words that you can usually cut out and replace with a more complex word, right? Instead of a person was really mad, you could say they were furious. And that's usually a good rule of thumb is anytime you can, what I found is anytime you can say the same thing in less words, it's usually better. I've got some general verbs, right? Start, begin, began, begun. And then I've got internal expressives for you navel gazers out there. And then I've got external expressives. Things like shrugged, inhaled, exhaled, breathed. I included said, but it's not really necessary to have in here. I've come to understand that over the years that said is less of an imperative thing to strike out. Oops, sorry. So I'm going to go ahead and pause that there, not pause, cut out that section of the story because I want to go ahead and show you the comparison feature. We're going to going to do one of my earlier works from 2016, which actually I started writing the Resonance Saga, publishing it in 2014. This is the box set, The Legacy of Magnanimous. And I went ahead and got the Heirs to Magnanimous, which is the end of sort of the book series published culminated in 2019. And we're going to get comparison stats because I want to show you this middle column here, right? So you're familiar with the things on the left side, and then we've got things on the right side, right, that are the other story comparison. And then what the software does is it just creates a percentage difference between one and another. So it's an absolute value, so it doesn't really matter which one's higher, it just gets the percentage difference between them. And for me specifically, this was a really good method of charting my ability because you'll notice that to a large extent, maybe with some exceptions, but everything in terms of these filler words, by and large, went down over the many years that I've done it. So this is a really good look at the type of works that that I've done, beginning and sort of ending. And that's what the software does, more or less, is it can compare two works. What's really interesting is if you have a favorite author, if you manage to get a text version of their ebook, you can paste it in here and you can even see what their stats are for their work, which is very cool. I've tested this software up to about, I want to say like 60 or 100,000 words. I don't know how long it would take to go much higher than that, so I'd be interested to know what your mileage is. And then what you can also do is you can export this to a CSV, which is basically a spreadsheet. And what you can do with that spreadsheet then is not only can you have your story stats and in more of a permanent digital form, but you can also copy the word and do a Control F in your Word document. If you say like, hey, I'd like to reduce the instances of say completely or suddenly in my work, and then you can go in there and you can edit it, and it's a really cool tool to just cut out some of the excess, which is very nice. But yeah, that's basically it. I'm gonna go ahead and pause. Oh, one thing I wanted to mention as well is that if you ever have 0 instances of something and some of another, it'll give 100%. And if they're both 0 or they're both the same, that'll be 0%. So just a fun little quirk that I have in here. Anyway, I hope this is useful for some of you out there. And if it's not, that's okay. But yeah, I hope you get something out of this, and I'll see you all next time.